TheraBands here. If you'd like if you haven't already put a towel under your low back and you'd like one, now's a good time to put it there. And we'll start with the right foot in the TheraBand, and we'll have the heel free. So the TheraBand's on the ball of the foot or maybe arch of the foot, and the right heel's on the mat. Elbows are on the mat as well to allow the shoulders to soften. We're going to inhale here, and exhale, we'll slide the leg long. We'll inhale, grow long from head to heel. Notice ribs can stay heavy. And then feel the thigh bone suction back into the hip socket and resist the band on the way back, almost like you're pushing into the band on the way home. We're going to add on and do our head floats in between each set here. So we'll inhale to prepare. Exhale, press into the right foot, slide long. We'll pause here, teeth and tongue together, elbows hover, and we'll hover the head for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll lower the head, and then we'll resist the TheraBand coming back in. Inhale to prepare, and exhale, pressing in the heel to slide long. Elbows and head hover for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and lower. And we'll resist the TheraBand back in. Inhale to prepare, feel the ribs expand. Exhale, press into the heel, pelvis is quiet as we slide. Hover elbows and head for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower the head and resist the TheraBand back home. We're going to switch sides. We'll put the left foot in the band now. Heel is free. And then we'll place the left heel on the ground, elbows on the ground. We'll inhale, feel the ribs expand. And then exhale, pressing into the heel, we'll slide the leg long. Inhale, grow long from head to heel. Notice ribs can stay heavy. And then exhale, suction the thigh bone back into the hip socket. Resist the TheraBand back home. We'll add in our head hovers next. We'll inhale here. And exhale, press into the heel to slide. Teeth together, tongue to the roof of the mouth, hovering elbows and head for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lower the head and resist the TheraBand back home. Inhale into the ribs. And exhale, pressing into the heel, sliding the legs straight. Hovering elbows and head for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and lowering. Resisting TheraBand back home. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, press into the heel and sliding long. Hovering elbows and head for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, lowering the head. And we'll resist the TheraBand back home. Let's take a pause here and just rock the head from side to side like you're tracing a rainbow with your nose. And then if you'd like to move into double leg slides, you can put both feet into the band. You're also welcome to stay with single leg slides. If you're doing single, you can do 2 on each side, and we'll do 4 doubles. Heels are both on the mat. Arms are, I've got my arms straight and on the mat holding the TheraBand. Inhale, and also legs, my legs are together, so knees and feet together. Inhale here into the ribs. And then exhale, pressing into the heels, sliding the legs long. Inhale, grow long from head to heel. And then as you exhale, notice the ribs can stay heavy. Resist the band back home. Inhale to prepare. Exhale as you press in, oops, I lost my band. As you press into the heels and slide, just notice that your low back is keeping contact with your towel. Inhale, grow long from head to heel, and then sliding back in. Inhale to prepare. Exhale, pressing into the heels, sliding long. Inhale, growing from head to heel. And exhale, resisting the band back home. And one more here. Inhale. Exhale, pressing into the heels, sliding long. Inhale, growing long from head to heel. And then exhale, sliding back home. So we're going to keep the TheraBand on the feet, but we're going to move it down so that it's on the heels. And both feet, you can actually do this as a single foot or both feet, whatever is feeling comfortable for you. We're going into a tabletop position. Elbows will be on the mat, legs are together, and feet are in tabletop. Low back is still connected with our towel. And we'll apply just a little bit of pressure in our thigh as we exhale, squeezing in our thighs. And then we'll inhale and we'll let that release. Feel the ribs expand. We'll exhale, feel the ribs get heavy as inner thighs squeeze gently. Inhale, let that release, shoulders soft. One more time, exhale, inner thigh squeeze, ribs heavy. Inhale, we'll let that release. You can fold the knees in for a little rest and sort of wiggle if you'd like. And then we'll bring the legs up, back up to tabletop. We'll have the inner thighs gently squeezing. Low back is going to stay connected to the towel the whole time, elbows on the mat. And we'll go try our coffee slide. So as we exhale, sliding the legs away from the body, trying not to spill the glasses of water that are on our shins. And then we'll inhale, bringing them back in. Doesn't have to be a huge movement. We'll exhale, pressing the heels into the band to slide away. And inhale, coming back home. If it's available to you, we'll do 2 more. Know that you can take a break whenever you need it. Exhale, slide out. Inhale, back home. Exhale, pressing into the heels, sliding out. Inhale, home. We'll put the TheraBand down and let the shins be heavy. And just notice, so we've got our towel under our low back. So we're going to keep that sacrum heavy in our neutral pelvis as we squeeze the thighs towards us. And you can just sort of move the legs towards one another and slightly away from one another. And as we do this, we're moving from getting movement in our hip joint because our low back is still in neutral. And then from here, you can slide that towel out from under the back and then around the low back into the mat, noticing how adding in that spinal movement, the legs can get maybe a little bit closer, and we'll draw little circles with the pelvis on the mat. And then we'll pause and we'll reverse directions. Good. And then we'll bring feet down to the mat. If you'd like the towel under your low back again, feel free to place it there. And we'll float the arms up to, so fingertips are pointing towards the ceiling. And we're going to do our shoulder blade movements. And I know I often cue this reach fingertips to the ceiling and down. And today I'd like us to think about the movement initiating from the shoulder blades. So we'll widen the shoulder blades. And as we do that, we'll notice the fingertips lift towards the ceiling. And then we'll bring the shoulder blades closer together and we'll notice the arms come back down and plug into the torso. Shoulder blades widen. And exhale as we plug the arms back in. Inhale, shoulder blades widen. And exhale, plugging the arms back in. 2 more times. Inhale, shoulder blades widen. Exhale, arms plug in. Inhale, shoulder blades widen. And exhale, arms plugging in. Straightening the leg that's closest to your screen, and we'll do a log roll onto the side. And you can take the towel that was, if you had one, under your low back, and if you'd like, place it between the arm and head. And we've got both knees bent, heels aligned with sits bones. And just take a minute to notice that this waist that's on the mat can lift ever so slightly, like if we were sliding match cars underneath us. It's like a little tunnel. And our belly button's going to stay pointing forward. And we'll float the top leg up and we'll lower it back down. So it's coming up-ish to about hip height. Doesn't have to be huge. And if you feel comfortable and you feel like your waist is lifted, then you can think about growing long from head to tailbone as the leg is moving. And then if you feel like you've got that and feel pretty comfortable, you can check in with your ribs and hip bone and just see if the bottom rib is aligned with that hip bone or if it's a little bit forward, and see if you can make any adjustments. That's just going to get the tissues of the, like the abdominal front torso tissues lighting up a little bit more. Let's float the leg up and we'll pause here. And trying to keep pelvis and torso quiet, we'll float the leg, the thigh bone forward in space. And then we'll bring the thigh bone backwards, seeing if we can open through the front of the hip, bringing the knee slightly behind the line of the torso. And we'll come forward. If it's helpful, you can press the bottom leg into the mat to help with that stability. And we'll come forward. And back. And then remembering that we have both front of the body and back of the body, let's trace 3 circles, and we'll start out small. So we'll start by bringing the knee forward and up and back and down. And then each circle, see if you can make a little bit bigger, and just notice how that changes how your torso and pelvis feel in terms of stability. And the last one will be the biggest one, remembering we're trying to also get back behind the body. And then we'll pause, we'll lower that leg down. We're going to push up to a seated position. And then doing whatever's comfortable for your legs. So you can either cross your legs, bring the legs forward, and we'll just shrug our shoulders, circling up and back. And breathing as you go. Oh, one more. And then we'll shrug our circles forward. Breathing as you go. Good. And then we'll lay down on our other side, and we can place the towel between arm and head. And when we first get down there, we'll notice our heels are ish aligned with our sits bones. And we'll feel that our waist is lifted slightly, the side that's on the mat, and our belly button is shining forward. And we'll start to lift and lower that top leg. And maybe we'll notice a difference on this side from the other side. If you do, just notice that. And if you feel like you've got this movement and your waist is staying lifted, the next thing to think about is growing long from tailbone to head as this leg is moving. And keep breathing too. And then if you've got that and it feels pretty comfortable, you can check in with ribs and hips and see if you can bring the ribs so they're back in line with the hip bone. And just notice as you do that how the tissues of the front core are going to light up a little bit more. Well, maybe they will. Maybe you were already in line if you're not like me. On this next one, we'll float up and we'll pause there. And then you can imagine pressing that bottom leg into the floor to help with the stability if you want. And we'll glide thigh bone forward in space. We'll glide the thigh bone backwards in space, trying to open through the front of the hip. So trying to bring that thigh slightly behind the torso line, but ribs and hips are staying in line with one another. And as we're gliding, if it's helpful, you can think of the thigh bone gliding back and down into the hip socket and then gliding forward and up. We'll do one more in each direction. And then we'll start our circles. And let's remember we've got in front of the body and behind the body. So we want to get the circle to be half in front, half behind. And let's start small. So we'll come forward and we'll draw a small circle up, back, and down. And then we'll make it a little bit bigger. So just being a little bit playful and exploratory about what happens in the body as this gets bigger. And then the last one will be our biggest one. Good. And then we'll bring that leg down. We're going to come back on to our backs. And if you'd like to take your towel and place it under your low back, now is a good time to do it. And then we'll take our TheraBand and we're going to do that funny wrap that we did last week, where we place both heels into the TheraBand. And then legs are together, knees and feet are together. And then we'll cross the band or bring it down towards the thigh here and then make an X over top. And so you've got an X on the front of the thigh. So it's kind of squeezing the legs together. Elbows on the mat. If this position is not working for you, you can do the other position without the cross, or you can also do this without the TheraBand. From here, we're just going to widen, open the legs away from one another, and then bring them back together. Exhale as we open. And as we inhale and come back, see if you can resist the TheraBand. So we're working in both directions instead of letting the TheraBand bring us back home. Open and in. So we just did this side lying, sort of our legs weren't quite in a tabletop position, but different relationship to gravity, but also no resistance. So just notice the difference there. Ribs can be heavy on the mat. Let's do 2 more if it's available to you. And then we'll let the legs come in for a little rest. And then we'll bring them back up to our tabletop position. And we're going to go into our scissors. So feeling the right leg press away as the left knee comes towards you. And it's going to be teeny tiny because this TheraBand here is holding everything pretty close together. And then we'll switch sides. Keep breathing as you go. And whenever you hit your just right challenge, you're welcome to come down. Because of the way the TheraBand's around us, we're adding resistance to both directions, to both legs, and getting a lot of feedback into the hips. Let's do 1 more on each leg. Good, then we'll let that release. We'll put the band to the side, good work. And give yourself a little squeeze. And then we're going to come up for one last exercise, and we're going to do that again without the TheraBand just to notice the difference. So let's bring the legs up to tabletop. If this tabletop position is getting to be a lot, you can also let your shins be heavy and you'll do the movement with your thigh bones. I'll maybe demo that so that you can see that. So scissors, will bring one knee closer and one knee away. And then we'll switch. We want sacrum and ribs to stay heavy. And then I'm just going to bring my legs up to tabletop just to show that as well. Keep breathing as you go. Just notice without the resistance what that feels like. Hopefully that resistance gave us a little extra awareness to find this movement without it. And last side. Good. We'll bring the legs in. Good work.